Well, that was fun. We just got back from the movies.
We sure did.
We went to the movies together for the first time, all three of us.
I like how you just did not include Andrew or Amanda at all.
They were there too, but I mean, like, we've never been to the movies together.
That is true. Well, I've been with Brad. I don't know if you know
Tenet,
this.
baby.
We went to go see Tenet. So.
Big movies are bad. And that was a lie.
it was a lie.
But this time, they're for real back.
This felt like big movies were back.
We went to see A Quiet Place 2. Ellis and I,
Part 2.
we'd both already seen it, not together, but this time we all went together. And yes, Andrew and Amanda joined us. Jake couldn't make it, unfortunately, but it was a proper work outing.
It was a family outing.
Yeah.
Team building exercise.
And, dude, I loved it even more the second time.
I
Such
did
a
too.
good movie. First off, let's say last week we talked about this movie a little bit because it was, the Father's Day episode. Brad, what are your thoughts on Lee? Now, having seen this one, do you feel any different about, your choices between Lee and Marlon?
Well, I guess to get it started, obviously this episode is going to go into spoiler territory, right? So if you're really invested and you still haven't seen A Quiet Place Part 2, maybe wait to listen to this episode after seeing it. But Lee, we know from the first one, doesn't make it into the second one, other than the flashback.
Yeah.
So the movie opens with that, and I thought that showed him being very instinctual, very caring family man, but
you still stand by your decision.
Marlon made it through 2 movies all the way.
Yeah, I agree. Marlon is still my...
You guys are terrible people, but it's okay. We'll keep going. So the first movie, we should talk about just A Quiet Place in general, because I think that the first film was just a rare gem at a time where most of the time, now, of course, they're turning in sequels now, but the first one was not a reboot, It was not a superhero movie. It was something new.
It wasn't tied to some other property.
Yes, it was brand new. It was a new thing. That's very rare.
I would say, too, think of it like this. It's not even, it wasn't based off some obscure book that people didn't know. It was, completely new.
Not even, not a comic book, a graphic novel, nothing like that. There's just these 2 guys, what were their names? I wrote it down. Brian Woods and Scott Beck. These are 2 young filmmakers trying to break into Hollywood, trying to get their career started. They've made some short films, I think they directed their first feature, and it had limited release, didn't do that great, and that's when they sat down. They'd had this idea for a while from what I read, and they started to write A Quiet Place with a really simple concept. If you make noise, you die. That was and it was so simple they almost forgot about it for years, they said. But they finally sat down and started to write it, and it sounded
Do we have ideas like that?
We definitely have ideas that we have forgotten to pursue.
Yeah. Anyways.
But they, it was interesting from what I read, just hearing how that struggle of they're doing the grind like we're all doing. They're trying to make something, right? And then they finally have this opportunity where they can't believe it because they're used to hearing no, that's not right for us, we'll pass. And then they hear back, John Krasinski loves it, Emily, his wife, loves it. They both want to act in it. John wants to direct it, Paramount wants to do this, and they were like, what?
I can't even imagine.
Yeah. And of course, John Krasinski took it and rewrote a lot of it, and I think I don't know how much he changed. Who knows? I've never seen the script, but but what he brought to it, I think, was the family dynamic that I think these 2 young writers may not have been able to really fully capture. John had just had his first child when he started working on this, and he has this fear of, can I protect this baby, this innocent life? Am I going to be able to protect this child? And that's where he channeled that fear into the first Quiet Place. And he said that, he'd never done anything like this for one. He he's been an actor. He hasn't directed, but he also
Did he direct any like episodes of The Office?
he did. I think he did
Okay.
direct some episodes, but he was like, I read where he said he felt like he didn't deserve this like lottery ticket he had won as this paper salesman on this now classic show, but he now, I see from what I read, he was like, he feels like he's earning his place because of the amount of work that went into directing a film,
Yeah.
and especially this one, like his first really big directorial debut, and he was doing everything from like looking up houses on Zillow to find the perfect farmhouse.
Oh, that's cool.
He was standing in as the aliens on set, stuff like that. That's like stuff that we would do. You know?
It's very indie
Right.
sensibilities and stuff like that. That's cool.
And I think though that's why so much love went into making the film, not only from these two young writers who just poured their heart and soul into it, but then also, like a more of a veteran in the film industry, like John Krasinski, poured his heart into it because it was his kind of first baby passion project type thing too.
Yeah. I think it's cool too because it's like, he was known as Jim from The Office to so many people, but now he's kind of jumped past that where people acknowledge him as John Krasinski, the actor and director. He's been in the Jack Ryan series, which I saw the first season of that. It was, it wasn't bad, but he's kind of similar trajectory of Jordan Peele too, where you're kind of known under this brand. For Jordan Peele, it was the Key and Peele, skit comedy sketch, and then it's like once you make that jump to director and you have a good enough film to kind of set you apart, people are like, oh, this is Jordan Peele, the director, John Krasinski, the director.
I still thought of him as Jim from The Office when he was doing Jack Ryan. I was like, hey, it's Jim from The Office. He's just
he grew a
jacked.
beard.
Yeah.
He got jacked.
Jim with a beard. Well, and then Jordan Peele has a very clear style.
He grew a beard too.
Yeah, he did. That's true.
Is that? Whoa.
Dude, beards make you better. But Jordan Peele has a very clear style, and I wonder if John Krasinski will continue in this vein of... I think they'll probably make a part 3 because this is so successful. I liked what he said, though. I read this. He said something about he said he promised that a follow-up, and this was before the second one, obviously, promised that a follow-up would be respectful of the response the original received. Making it, he said, isn't a business decision. It's a life decision.
Yeah.
I thought that's cool.
That's cool. Yeah, I agree with that. Because I think... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I liked how also when he was deciding to make the sequel that he wanted to, like... He made the story first and he wanted to shape it around Millie, like the actress. He was like, if we're going to do this, she's going to be...
She's
the daughter who had the hearing disabilities. Yeah. He was like, I want my story, I want the protagonist to be her, and that's like the only way I'm going to do this.
Cool.
Yeah. What's cool too is he didn't... From what he said in the behind the scenes videos, he didn't want to make this sequel because he said he's an audience member first, didn't want to destroy what was established with the first one.
Yeah.
But they asked him to take it and just at least start outlining something they could give to
someone else,
another writer director. And as he was doing that, he was like, holy crap, I think I got to make this movie.
Yeah. Well, so my question too is the Scott, what were the two writers? They worked on the first one, so John Krasinski takes the movie, takes the script, kind of adds the family dynamic. Do they have any involvement after the success of the first one?
I tried looking that up, but I haven't seen. You want to try to see, Andrew, see if you can find something about that?
John Krasinski, he wrote the outline for it. So
he wrote the new movie. I
wonder if
he got
just
sole
took
writer's
full
credit.
control.
Yeah, he's got sole writer's credit because it says written directed by John Krasinski on part 2. So I don't think they were involved. I think at that point, the film is
sold it.
Yeah, the film is so big. It's is it Paramount?
It's Paramount.
Yeah, so it's it's Paramount's. It's a Paramount picture now, and it's John Krasinski is like.
He's almost the face of the franchise,
right? But he
unfortunate that he died
in the first one.
I would say it's actually probably best because when you set up stakes like that and you can show that any of the characters can die.
Oh yeah. Well, he said in the behind the scenes what he likes is that the world is like usually you build it around a character, but in this instance, it's a world, and you can put any characters, protagonists, antagonists, into the world, and tell a new story, which is really cool.
It was interesting about hearing about him directing and acting at the same time, and he said it was almost a little easier to act and direct because he could kind of like whisper something to the other actor and say, hey, do kind of like this time or whatever.
It's probably also easy to act with your wife.
Yeah, exactly. So they're in the moment, and then it's like this time he wrote a much bigger film with a much bigger budget with a lot more stunts, explosions, like CGI. So he had a much more stressful environment to direct in, I think.
True.
So
hold on, Andrew's
according to IMDb, they do both have writers credits
in
on
the
part
sequel?
2.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know to the extent.
From what I saw, at least in the trailer, it said based on the characters by them, and he had like the writer's credit. So,
is it story credit or IMDb says writer?
It says writer, yeah.
Huh.
Interesting.
Maybe that's just for like the original.
I think
world
it is.
building.
I think it because I don't think they were involved in writing the second one.
I'm trying to remember on the credits. I just like
it definitely said that. I've seen the movie twice. I remember it was like it said direct. It was like written directed by him, and then it was like based on these stuff by those guys.
But I'll say this: you mentioned how the movie's a bigger world, and I agree with that in part 2. But I also feel like it's not super big. It's not like they go. It's in like upstate New York, but they don't go to New York City, and there's tons of people.
It's very contained.
It's
into
still
like one town.
Yes.
It feels still. It felt like a good continuation of the story without like going too big. You still are mostly with the family. You have Cillian Murphy, who
was apparently called Cillian Murphy.
Did you know that?
I didn't know that either.
John Krasinski said it like several times in behind the scenes, and I'm assuming he's worked with the guy and knows how to say his name right. So I've always said Cillian Murphy, and I guess it's Cillian Murphy.
I'm gonna just call him Killian from now on.
Krasinski said it so.
Creature of habit. I'm not going to change.
Even if he's like, my name's Killian. You're like, no, it's Cillian.
Yeah.
Are you sure that's your name?
But it's like his character gets added, in the introductory scene, day one of this alien invasion, whatever it is.
Right.
They introduce him. There's some small bit parts that people in the town. And you brought up a good point. I think we were talking about this on the ride back from the theater, where you see those characters when he walks into the pharmacy at the very beginning, and then when the aliens attack, they're all in that bar hiding out.
Yeah,
and it's like those little.
They make
nuggets.
you like care about them quickly. You're quickly invested in this small town.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know. It you have the people on the island once the daughter and Cillian Murphy make it there, but even then they don't really. They're almost just faceless people, other than
right.
that one guy they talked to.
They're the others, lost.
I couldn't figure out if those people, like some of them were from the small town, or if it was just the full like Navy, like Coast Guard boat different. They're just a whole new group of people.
Well, they weren't any. Oh, you mean from the? I don't know.
From the because it almost sounded like in some of the dialogue they were at the baseball game or there that day in the town. But then there was another part where it's like when they figured out they couldn't swim, the Coast Guard loaded up some boats, and the only 2 boats made it out. So I can't figure out where they came from.
I don't know, but it would make sense that some of them were from that town, possibly.
I don't know. I overall really enjoyed the movie. I think the biggest thing and the biggest success of these 2 films is they have plenty of mystery, but I don't think their goal is to answer all the questions for you.
Yeah.
Because I think once they start answering too many of the questions, because in a lot of ways this movie reminded me of Lost. Y'all just mentioned the people on the other island. It felt like the others. They kind of have their own society. Everything seems normal, and you just saw your own people that you followed for a movie and a half slumming it on at a farmhouse, and then at this railroad station mining whatever that was. But and these people are living normal lives, and it really reminded me of when Lost did that. There's a lot of callbacks to Jurassic Park and stuff, but
Yeah.
I think the best lesson that I imagine they're taking from something like Lost is Lost got so convoluted, but then was trying to answer all the questions, and it oftentimes people don't enjoy the answers to every question, or once you explain the aliens a little too much, it just starts people's suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
People are like, that doesn't make sense. And, I feel like that's the best thing the sequel did, was it continued, you see that glimpse of day one, but they're not going to, take you to day zero and start on the alien planet and then show them, coming to attack.
Like almost the meteor is almost too much, It's like it works, but you start thinking about it and you're like, wait, how did they come down on a meteor or whatever? You don't want to get too many details. The mystery is really a lot of the fun of the film. Yeah, man. What else is there? We talked about
the parallel action's really good.
Gosh, so good. Parallel action,
All,
match cuts.
Like the match cuts are insane.
I think the tension, and that's the main thing that it works with the parallel action, is you have the daughter, her and Cillian Murphy. I'm really working on this now.
I like
you
it.
got it.
She's trying to find the boat. She hears, what is it, Beyond the Sea playing, through the radio. So she's doing that. The mom is going to get an air canister, refill and go into the pharmacy. The son getting his leg in a bear trap. That's
wow.
That was one of the most painful scenes. I felt so bad for him, and it's like, man.
Dude, and the sound design is
So
incredible.
good.
The whole film, but especially that bear trap hits, and it's just that and you can feel the pain. And then it's like anyone who gets their leg in a bear trap is going to scream, but especially this young boy who you're supposed to be silent.
Yeah.
And he's screaming, and it's such a great moment. His mom is right there trying to cover his mouth. She's inches from his face, and she's like, please, baby, don't, trying to stop him from just drawing every creature within earshot.
Yeah, I think this movie, just the tension was so good. There were moments where you're just wincing. Anything. The mom goes to get some more stuff at the pharmacy, and then the son is left in this kind of underground, bunker area of this factory, and it's him and the baby's oxygen, they're using oxygen to hide the baby from it crying, but it's so depleted. And
because they have the baby in a soundproof box, so for it to be able to breathe, they have an oxygen mask.
And it's just like, this baby and the son are losing oxygen. They're stuck inside this vault, and then the mom's trying to get back, but one of the monsters is there, and it's just like every time it's coming back and forth, you're just like, oh, these the stakes are high enough too, because of the father dying in the first one. You're like, I don't think they'll kill a kid, but
they could.
They killed a kid in the first one.
They did.
Man, speaking of the opening scene, the stunts and everything were really awesome. It was so well done. The way they pulled all that off practically is mind blowing, because when you see a cop car flip over, that's really happening. They've got.
Thought it was CG.
I know. They've got these plates underneath the car that I guess are hydraulic or whatever. They flip the car over, and then they paint out all of the wires and everything that are holding the car to that plate. And that's just a few feet from John Krasinski, and he turns around and runs. And then when Emily Blunt is driving through the town, all that's really happening. And
is she driving?
No.
No.
The way it works, this is really cool, because they rehearsed it for 3 weeks to get everything right, because there's not a camera guy in there. That's a robotic arm that's programmed. So, and John Krasinski said it was influenced by Children of Men, which we definitely can tell that Children of Men shot, when they're riding down and the flaming cart comes into the road. Such an awesome sequence. That one was probably done handheld. But now on A Quiet Place 2, they've got a big robotic arm. It's programmed. There's no room for improvisation or changes. So you practice for 3 weeks to get it all right. And that's including a car that explodes right in front of them, and then also a bus coming at them at like
40
40
miles an hour.
40 miles an
scary.
hour, and that's all being really done. Now, what they did is they disabled the steering wheel and everything for Emily Blunt, and above her, the top of the car is removed, and there's a stunt driver on top of the vehicle, and it's all rigged up so he can drive up there. Which, how crazy is that? And she's just, she acts, and she's getting a genuine performance. She's probably really freaked out.
Well, yeah, if
Yeah.
that goes wrong, then
Yeah.
your husband just killed you.
Yes. She looked up at the stunt driver though and said, my life is literally in your hands. And he said, I'm the best. And so that was John Krasinski said that in the behind the scenes, and he was like, that's what you want to hear from a stunt driver driving your
He
wife.
goes, hey, today's my first day.
If it was Mad Max, maybe it might be the
Yeah.
guy they found up the road who drives trucks.
Hey, it's okay. We got cardboard boxes. You'll survive.
I like what they did with the aliens a lot too. Was like in like the bus scene, for example. Whenever like it's driving, it's always like in the background, like crawling out of
Yeah.
something. Like there's like a hole in the window of the bus, and you just see slowly like peeking out like the alien.
Yeah.
God, it was so good.
They're always like, I mean, they definitely show them up close and they do a great job of it, but those blurry shots are always the coolest.
I was about to say, when there was a moment too when there were two of them. I think it might have been, when they were at the docks, and I didn't realize the second one was there, and then suddenly the focus changes and you see it and you're like, whoa, I didn't even know that was in
Yeah.
that
They
location.
did a really good job of hiding them.
Yeah.
The train, like when the girl's on
When
the
Millie's
train.
like in front of the camera lens
Yeah.
and then leans back, and you can see down the train, and it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good.
Lots of intense jump scares. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
just a flock of birds that fly out, but they scare the crap out of you.
The one when they were driving the car on the island, I think our whole row, like all of us, jumped back. I know Amanda just like flew back at that one.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, when it like shows up behind when they're in the car and goes like,
Yeah.
and like lands on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, my sister went to see it. She called me and to tell me about it.
During the movie.
She was like talking about how much she like yelled and like, just involuntary screams because it scared her so bad.
Yeah.
And she was laughing because she was like, she used to make fun of mom for that all the time, but now she's
becoming that.
she's becoming that. It was funny.
The birds definitely got me the first time. The second time I was like,
You
I
were
knew they were
prepared.
coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They got me again, and I wasn't. I guess because I kind of was zoned out for a second because I knew they were there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I felt you jump, and I was like, yeah.
Amateur.
What if Luke didn't see it for the first time, or like that was his first
He was
time
just
and
lying.
He was
I
just
just
lying.
made it all up.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty funny. So, you guys want to like nitpick the movie too? Like stuff that we think was kind of like weird?
Yeah,
Well,
for
of
sure.
course.
Because I think that that's necessary. I know Andrew had some
Andrew
stuff,
had a
too.
good point.
Yeah, he had a lot of good
Tell
points.
him about the ending of the first movie.
Well, yeah. Explain like your experience with A Quiet Place Part 1 and 2.
because you saw it the night before.
Yeah, so I knew we were going and I'd never seen it, so I rented it on Amazon and watched it the night before.
Part 1.
Part 1 the night before. And so the end of the movie, they like killed the first creature. I'm like, okay, you can kill these things, but it's a gunshot and these things respond to sound. So there's like these security camera footage, all these like 30 of them are like rushing the house, and she racks the shotgun and the movie ends. I'm like, oh, that's gonna be a sick opening to part 2. And then part 2 starts and it's just like, there's none, they're not there.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
they're leaving the place.
I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I guess that's fine. I
guess-
was really excited for that though.
You think she killed all of them and we didn't see it?
No, they wrote themselves into a corner and
I
they're
think
like,
so.
I hope no one notices.
yeah.
Because we didn't see any bodies. We only saw the one alien
And they were
body.
just chilling in the basement when the second one started.
I bet when they were planning on releasing this like last year and then the pandemic hit, they went, you know what, this pandemic's terrible, but the benefit is it gives people a whole nother year to forget what
I
happened
forgot
at
about
the
it.
end of the
Yeah.
first one. I forgot too.
Well, that's what happens when you watch it the night before.
Yeah. Well, you
Yeah.
also brought up the point that the monster could swim. In
Well,
the first
I don't
one,
I don't necessarily think it was swimming. There's a scene where they're in the basement and it's like flooded and it's like waist high probably.
Yeah.
And it submerges itself intentionally.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's like lurking under the water, kind of like New Hope. That's the vibe I got
Yeah,
when watching
yeah.
it, where it's like the thing in the trash compactor.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, oh gosh, these things can swim too. Like they're like fine with being underwater. And then the next movie, they're like, no, they can't swim.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Well, yeah.
So here-
and I think that
here's-
was it. I think it was just crawling around versus
And
jumping in like
any
a deep
normal person could
lake.
literally go into like the shallow end of a pool
Oh, yeah,
and like
no.
just submerge themselves and come back up. It's like when you can't touch the bottom.
And
Okay.
I'm not like, I forgive it because I
Yeah.
get it. It just
Yeah.
was like in my head when I was watching it, I was like, these things are aquatic too. And then I was like, oh, I guess not. But I was like, I understand that. And I
Aquatic place too.
aquatic place too.
I legit thought it was about to like go just eat Cillian Murphy
Yeah.
when it went underwater. I was like, oh no,
Yeah.
it's like a shark in the water
Yeah, yeah.
now.
Jaws.
Well, here's my theory about what happened. It got a really bad case of swimmer's ear, and it just couldn't survive once it got too deep.
yeah.
Imagine the pressure.
Oh,
Pressure.
What else did you have other nitpicks? I know we talked about a lot right after the movie.
Those were the two that I remember off the top of my head. I don't think there was anything else that I was like, they obviously like didn't like.
To me, it was the kid. Whenever he was just like the son that was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna go head up and just go look around and just
yeah.
chill.
He got bored.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I'm just gonna go up there and look around, and then literally like summons the like alien creature to him. The kid, almost the entire movie is kind of worthless because like
I
he,
disagree. I
the
would much
end-
rather have a scared kid in that situation than a kid that's gonna wander off.
Well, look, like beginning of the movie, bear trap, he's gone. He's down for like almost the entire movie now, and then.
Yeah.
Not only that, he goes up and brings the alien to everyone else. And
Yeah,
so,
because what happened? Like he found the dead body.
Yeah, he found
Killian's wife, I believe.
Yeah, so he finds this corpse. It's like
which I thought was. I was like, what are they about to show? Like that this guy
I thought
murders kids
I
or
thought
something?
Killian's character was like evil the first watch through. Like I thought he was a kind of a jerk maybe at the beginning of the baseball game. I was
Uh-huh.
like, they're setting up an antagonist
I did
character.
too.
Yeah.
And turns out I thought maybe he was gonna double cross Millie.
Mm-hmm.
Like halfway through the movie. I was like, he's gonna do something with her. And he turns out to be a good guy. I
Well, he
was not
kinda-
expecting that at all.
As part of that, because the roles he often plays, he's kind of like an antagonist a lot of times.
Yeah. I don't know.
Oh, when you play
weird vibe.
Scarecrow in the
I know.
Batman.
I was thinking of that, and then in time, he's like the bad guy that's chasing down Justin Timberlake's character.
Also, I have a hard time seeing like the interviews we watched a little bit before recording this, and it just here's a nitpick with everything. All these British actors are so good at doing American accents, but yet when they do their interviews, they're in their normal accent. I'm like, we have acknowledged that you can play a pretty convincing American. Why not extend it over into the interviews?
What? Now,
That's
now
insane.
hold on a second, because like they're literally just talking like a normal person. That's
Brad's
just,
like, play a character
Yeah.
all, during in real
don't-
life.
I-
it'd be
you know,
like if I did my interview like this the
You know-
entire time.
My suspension of disbelief needs to be like look,
Behind the scenes needs to also be
look,
like
the
part
way
of the movie.
Kurt Lazarus in Tropic Thunder handles it well. He keeps the character until after the DVD commentary.
Commentary.
Man, I don't drop character till I've done the DVD commentary.
They gotta have a break sometime. Also, Cillian Murphy, I believe, is Irish. So
Yeah, and
he
also,
is.
and Emily Blunt also has an accent. No idea when you watch the movie. Sounds
I
American.
did
That's
not
what
know
I'm-
that she had an accent at all.
That's what I'm saying, man.
It doesn't bother me though at all. that
Yeah,
they have an
definitely,
accent.
definitely
What-
a weird.
like I said, a nitpick.
For the interview.
Brad's gonna start a whole
Revolution.
revolution, a new hashtag. Use fake accents.
Brad only speaks American.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Like Christian Bell, get out of here, man. Talk
So-
to me like you're Bruce Wayne.
Anyways, the kid, that was one of my biggest ones, and then
So you felt like his character just was.
he had his redemption arc at the end, right? Like
Yeah.
whenever he gets to like really like embody like what the symbolism was of like
Right.
his dad and what
Well-
it meant to be a protector.
And it's cool too that we see that both of the children, that both of their kids, basically are the ones that take down the
Oh, yeah.
aliens.
Yeah.
And
That baby didn't
the-
do much, but
Yeah, and like the metaphor for the first film, the baby was useless.
That maybe is useless.
except to,
I
like,
didn't say that.
it's only
I
it's,
didn't say that.
it's used to like bring the aliens around when it's crying. But the metaphor for the first film was about the about parenthood, right? And the metaphor for the second film was about like growing up,
Legacy.
Yeah.
growing up, letting your kids grow up, letting your kids go out into
Yeah.
the world. And so it's really well done because they are the ones that save the day instead of dad being the one that has to take down the aliens.
Exactly.
Now the son and daughter are the ones who've taken that role, you know.
Yeah, and I appreciate that a lot. It was just like just that scene felt kind of weird to me.
It's
But-
one of those, once you're out of the movie and you look back and you're like, man, this kid only got them into like dangerous situations.
and this is like only nitpicking, right?
Yeah.
It's still a great movie.
I don't know what he was going up there for.
That was my whole issue with it, was like he was just chilling and they racked focus on something whenever he was like holding the baby, and I'm not sure what our attention was like supposed to be drawn to, because
Yeah.
that table was really cluttered.
Yeah.
I was looking for that this time, trying to figure it out, and I couldn't figure it
Oh,
out
no.
still. But that was a nitpick. The other nitpicks were the women's high heels at the train station. Made zero sense to me. I don't know
Okay.
why
So
that was like,
this-
we had so much focus drawn
Yeah.
in
this
on that.
this movie shows a lot of people's feet. I'm just saying.
That is not something
There's a-
I noticed, but
I think
thinking back, you're
hills-
right.
and which made me think, wonder what Quentin Tarantino's view on this
Oh,
movie.
maybe it's because high heels make such a loud
Yeah.
sound.
Right.
That's,
Yeah,
like,
of
so,
course, yeah.
Like,
For reference, the first one does that too a little bit in the opening scene, like when they're in the pharmacy / convenience store, like all the chips are still there and everything else is barren.
Okay.
So I think it's like a conscious decision,
but
like
Yeah.
why was it only high heels
That
that
was-
was at the train station?
It was weird. I didn't
I
understand.
mean, I'm not like saying like it makes perfect sense, but I
A
maybe that's the
businesswomen's
thought.
conference.
Try looking it up, Andrew. See if you can find it. Why were there
I did-
the high heels?
my-
I think it's just a visual thing that people would be like, "Whoa, yeah."
It just seemed very bizarre to me.
Yeah.
My only other like
I think it's
thought
because they
is-
make sound. I think that's got to be
Yeah.
the only thing, right?
That's what I'm thinking too. Unless like, because I thought there was going to be some crazy predatory like group of individuals living at this train station or
Yeah.
something. Like,
I know. I did too.
I think
I was like, this is
many,
taking a dark turn.
watching so many Mad Max movies has made us like just expect like some guy and he's got a necklace of like high heels and,
yeah.
yeah,
and pearls and
I guess one overall nitpick of the whole series, but you know, the government couldn't figure out these things
Yes.
that they figured out about these frequencies that hurt them. I mean, it's kind of, you'd think sound is, you know, they have super sensitive hearing. You would think maybe the greatest minds or whatever, the scientists, the government,
I
they would
feel
go
like they would take a submarine underwater, because as soon as they figure out they can't swim, they go underwater and they start testing this stuff and figuring out.
right.
well,
And then-
here's what I think the movie's explanation, either it's shown in the movies or whatever, I forget with the first one, but I think it's like they started attacking so quickly that the government couldn't figure it out
Yeah.
right away.
And what we saw in day one,
Yeah.
like, it is almost like no one was going to be prepared for that. Like, there's no way that our, if you're just standing out in the middle of the square and that starts happening, you're not prepared for that.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
That's why.
What
That's
would be
why.
your first reaction? Mine would be to go get into a car and then I'd be dead, because they're
Yeah.
sound based.
Exactly. And that's why John Krasinski, it should have been the best dad of all time, because of the way he handled the situation. Instantly, he knows what to do instinctually. But I would probably go, ah, and it would just eat me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, I just like to imagine, I know these are two different movie universes, but at the same time, Amari McFly is just plugging in a huge amp, you know, and does the guitar, and the aliens come in and it just kills them, and he's like, whoa.
Their heads just explode.
Yeah.
I'm not finding anything about that scene in particular, but something that this did remind me of reading it. So Cillian's character wears shoes, and they like
Yeah.
I realized that when watching it. I guess I just didn't think about it, but that's just an
Yeah.
interesting.
He was like,
Like that he wears
not-
shoes,
I'm
no
not going
problem.
barefoot.
He just wears them, no problem, and they
Yeah.
like I don't know.
John Krasinski's character was just being too overprotective. He's like, we're not wearing shoes.
What about that shot right there that you have pulled up? It was at the end of the woods.
Yeah.
I brought this up on the way home, but like, so they have this sand that's going out to nowhere and it just stops. It's a great visual and it works perfectly for the movie. But if you think about it, you're like, why would they just take sand out towards the middle of the woods that just ends? It would go from your home to town or whatever, but not just go. It's kind of like you forked and you went into the woods for no reason.
They
and it
ran out
just
of
stops.
sand, obviously.
That's what-
Yes, but it doesn't go anywhere. It's
Well,
like they didn't run out of sand
my
going from
rebuttal
town to their house. They
is
ran out
they
of sand in the middle of the
probably-
woods.
My rebuttal is they probably have to hunt for food and they have to grow vegetation, so they have it out to a certain distance so that they can go into the woods and like hunt and stuff, and it's to like stay quiet.
I don't think so.
I think
they didn't
more than
hunt. They
anything,
only
fished in the
fished
first one,
They
yeah.
fished,
Oh,
and this trail
Well, there
goes to
goes that.
nowhere. It's just a visual, and it works.
I think, and it's so easy to make these arguments. Same thing with the high heels is they look really cool, and then you take a step back after seeing the movie, and when you're nitpicking it, you can go, wait, that didn't make sense. But I think sometimes when making movies, you have to make these like symbolic or visually cool stuff just to add flavor to your movie.
I mean, Spielberg's the king
Yeah,
of that. There's
so-
always things that don't really make sense,
Yeah.
but they look really cool for the shot, and it's always like blocking type things,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that don't make sense that a person wouldn't really do or whatever.
don't blame him for it at all. Just
So-
gonna nitpick it because it's there.
Yeah, of course. And here would be, I think, if anything, the one moment I wasn't completely on board with the movie was when they got to the radio station and the guy was like, "Oh, my son, I left my son," and they didn't close the garage door all the way. And obviously in that moment, he's going to die. Like,
They set up
just
the
that-
whole shot that way where he's backing up towards
yeah,
it. You're
that
like,
moment of
"Goodbye, friend."
hesitation is just going, that's it.
Yeah.
And I just felt like it almost, that one moment, it became a little too like
Horror movie?
Horror movie,
Yeah.
yes. And I was like, man, I felt like everything else just handled it very well. And then,
They had
and
to-
obviously it didn't delve into too crazy of
He
like,
served his purpose though. He was only supposed to drive him there because then we would have had a weird third wheel with like the entire story like dynamic
True.
of like this like almost father figure daughter figure.
Yeah.
he would have just been this weird anomaly. So
he's in the back.
they had to get rid of him somehow.
That's true. He couldn't be in the next scene.
He's going through records on the shelf. He's like, man,
You guys heard this one?
Can I make another clue out of this one?
Man, there was my last one that was like a real nitpick is like the first time that they meet Cillian and like they're hiding inside the like soundproof room or whatever. The audio levels were like, "Hey, what's your name?" And I was like, "Huh?" Like, I was like, I can't hear anything. What are they saying? It was so annoying. I was like, is this Tenet all over
Wait,
again?
which scene was that?
This is when like the
first meet him?
kid gets his leg in a bear trap.
Okay.
They run through. They get into the thing for the first time.
Yeah.
And they're like talking. And
Right.
She's like, "Show me your face." I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like,
yeah.
I don't know your name because I
Hey,
can't hear it.
Pause the movie. Can I get some subtitles on? I didn't know I was that hard of hearing.
I also thought it was clear that was Cillian Murphy's character. I was like, can't she tell by his eyes?
It was definitely clear that it was his character, but like I couldn't hear what they were saying.
No.
at all.
I just mean her. She
Yeah.
was like, "Show me your face." Like she didn't
Yeah.
know who this guy was. That she
He had the same hat on from
Had-
like that day.
Dude, the guy she knew for years in this town, and she's
Well,
like,
The argument too is like, I hated when she said, "Why didn't y'all come and rescue
Yeah.
us?" It's like, well, why didn't your family go and rescue his family?
exactly, yeah. She was like, "Did you ever think about coming for us?" And you're like, "But he's with his wife or whatever, trying to survive, and you're trying to survive over here. Like,
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense."
it was
Well,
a little weird.
It goes both
So
ways.
John Krasinski's character was like lighting a signal fire every night.
Yes.
So maybe that's what she was referring to.
But he was lighting one back, and
I don't know if was he lighting one back or did he just decide to light one that day? I don't know.
No, he
they
did
were
it. In the
lighting it
first one,
back.
he did it because
Yeah.
they would light them, and he would see the fires. They were like signaling to each
Okay,
other.
I must
that-
have missed that.
It was a stalemate.
It was basically saying like, "Yes, I'm still
you-
alive.
yeah.
If you've survived at the end of the day, then you light
Okay,
your fire.
okay.
And now that's like how we're communicating, right?
I guess I didn't understand that from my
Yeah.
watch through.
Then yeah, I don't understand.
It's because you watched it on your cell phone.
I know. I probably was eating a snack at that point.
You dropped some mustard on the screen, and you're like,
You were
clean it. And
you were eating a really loud snack that would get you killed in a quiet place.
Oh yeah, definitely.
chips.
How about
Don't you want these vegan chips?
Oh no! Don't you want these vegan chips?
This is nothing against the movie, but experiencing it, watching the second one in theaters, reminded me of my experience watching the first one in theaters, which is the movie obviously is called A Quiet Place, so there's moments like we've been talking about when the movie gets really quiet
Silent even.
and silent. Yeah, when especially in this one they bring you into the deaf daughter's
Millie's
perspective.
character, yeah.
So my problem with seeing in the movie theater, as great of an experience it is you then can hear the sounds of the movie theater. So when I saw the first one in theaters, I saw it, and then right next to it, it was playing Rampage, which I know and remember because in those quiet parts, you hear The Rock and a giant ape tearing down the city.
Yeah.
And then this one, you could hear, I don't know if anyone else heard this.
Oh, yeah.
People talking about slushies and like 30 like
Was this
seventh
close to standing
graders.
up and going to close the door because I think they forgot to close it? I was so pissed off. I was
So loud.
I was like, God,
And
like
then it was
so
closed
mad.
when we went out though. So
Yeah,
somebody
someone
must
did.
have-
This AMC blew my mind. I don't know if they forgot what working at a movie theater was like in the
Oh, they
year of the
didn't care at
pandemic.
all.
But
They didn't
like,
even check your ticket,
Yeah.
Andrew.
He just walked in.
They didn't care.
Yeah, they
They were all sitting off to the side, like
Yeah.
just hanging out.
I tried to show her mine, and she was like, "Y'all are good," and we're like, "Oh, okay."
I guess you just bought them, so they were like,
They're like so lax. I just don't
But
think
you
they
got-
care.
But like when I saw it the first time, I was in not that we were in theater 1 this time. I was in
because
theater.
you went to the same place. Right?
Yeah, the same place. I was in theater 9. It's on the other side of the building, and it was perfectly quiet the whole time. And like I guess maybe they closed the door, but it also had the type of entrance where you go down a hallway and turn
yeah.
more. It had like a bigger entrance. It was a bigger theater, I think.
But our theater was the only one on that wall in that space, which is
Yeah.
like blew my mind that we could hear other like movies.
I don't think
It's
I don't
mostly the
think it was
people we
other
heard.
movies. It was people in the concession area that
was the
I
main
just
thing.
heard people talking about slushies. They're
Yes.
like, "Are you getting a slushie?" I was like,
Yeah.
"I don't care if you're getting a slushie.
it
I'm
was
trying to watch this
It
movie."
was like a bunch of teenage girls like yelling and stuff. Where I was like, okay,
pissed.
In the quietest moment that could happen in the film, when she loses her hearing aid and it's completely silent.
And she's like, it's like really emotional. You
Yeah.
think that like Cillian's betrayed her.
I know.
And it's just like, yeah, I got a large Coca-Cola slushie, so
And I was pissed, but were you pissed too because you were like, we've hyped this up to Brad so
yes,
much? Yes.
That's why I was about to go close the door.
I
I was
know.
like, this is ruining the experience.
I was like,
for
now
them.
Brad's not gonna like it as much because of the stupid
know.
these girls out here.
Yes, so upset.
That's
Yes.
hilarious.
I let teen girls ruin my experience of stuff. Dang it! And that's a good enough time for a commercial break.
Hey guys, we just wanted to take a quick second to tell you we have launched our Patreon page. It's a place where listeners can help support the show and gain access to exclusive content.
Now, for $5 a month, our Patreon members get bonus episodes like our classic movie nights, where we watch classic films and talk in depth about what we liked, what hasn't aged as well, and how they achieved some of their special effects.
You'll also get early access to episodes before they're released to the public, and we'll give you a shout out on an episode of the show as well. Now, this is a growing platform, so we'll be adding all kinds of new content over time, and you can gain access to all of it exclusively at patreon.com/friends from film school.
You can follow at Sozo Bear Films on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Now, let's get back to the show.
Okay, since y'all have nothing else to talk about, I guess I can share, what I hold very true and dear to my heart. Fast and Furious.
No.
No.
There's plenty of Fast and Furious movies. We could do
Dude,
we can make a whole
We could go for
podcast
months.
series. Yeah. It could sustain us for years.
Okay, so A Quiet Place Part 2.
Would this movie be better with Vin Diesel as lead?
Part 5, he's coming.
Let me tell you, I mean, Vin Diesel cares about family.
True. Instead of Cillian Murphy, it's Vin Diesel.
Also, did you
Lee
say
versus
like
Dom. Who's the better dad?
a guy with no kids?
Well, he's got family.
Yeah. We're family, man.
I got family.
Didn't you say you thought Cillian Murphy was like Matthew
He
McConaughey?
at first, like the first split second I saw him, I was like, Matthew McConaughey? No, it's
I
the
had
beard that was like
I
really
had
like
that in my
throwing-
mind, and I'm like, I don't see how else
To me,
got to that.
to me, like the
conclusion.
first second I saw him, I was just like his facial structure with the beard. I was like, is that Matthew McConaughey? And then I was like, no, the eyes. I was like, that's not him.
So I've got a couple of questions. Who was your favorite character?
I would say Millie.
Yeah.
Right?
She's the protagonist. You know, it's
She-
really her story this time around.
Cillian Murphy's probably my favorite.
Yeah,
I like his entire redemption arc from like,
It is interesting, right?
yeah, like
one thing I really loved about the movie, which I don't think we went too deep into, is like the crazy people at the dock.
Yeah.
I just love that there's this weird evil sort of group.
I wanted to know more about them because they just,
Yes, I agree.
it seems so, like he did mention, he was like, the people have become something entirely different. So
But
it's like,
we don't know why they look burnt. Their
Yeah.
faces look burnt.
Another nitpick. He says that explicitly and then tries to help someone just who's hanging out at night in the docks, and he's
Oh.
like, "Hey, are you okay?" Like
Well,
you just
it's
said
a
that
little
they-
girl.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a little girl.
Like, I mean,
so
that's argument. Like,
If you're the guy that sets bear traps and sound traps,
Yeah.
I don't think you care.
that's true. Yeah, you're probably not worried
you
about
let it, chew through a little boy's.
Yeah, and he's
ankle.
like aiming the gun at them too, like at their heads too.
Well, that's
It's not
because he
even-
recognized them. He's like, those are people from the signal
yeah.
fire.
like, he had his zero to hero.
I think he
like,
was
arc,
he was
so-
watching. Yeah, I did. He was a great character.
Who was your favorite?
I think Cillian Murphy's character might be my favorite too.
Yeah. I just like he was like a whole redemption arc, and I'm a sucker for redemption arcs.
Yeah.
So
His is like the most interesting kind of because of that. But Millie was a great protagonist, and framing the story through her lens, I think,
Yeah.
was a great
I'm
choice.
a sucker for when they take movies and like change the sound drastically. Like even in movies where people take the headphones off and then put it on and it changes just the way it sounds.
they did a
Like,
great job of that.
anything with her losing the hearing aid.
Yep.
Like, I'm a sucker for that type of stuff.
and even hearing that sort of low end thump
Mm-hmm.
that she hears because of her hearing aid, like the
Yeah.
thump, like putting on and off, kind of like they do in Gravity, or
Mm-hmm.
things like that, where there's no sound but you hear those like boom, boom, those
Yeah.
weird sounds. And John Krasinski said that her mom was like thanking him, saying, "This is the first time I've gotten to hear the world from her perspective,
Yeah.
like what she hears," and that's pretty awesome.
I did not know she was actually deaf.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
She
And her
is.
interview, she actually like uses sign language to.
That's very interesting.
I feel like you would have to have that sort of experience because I think, especially being that young of an actor, I don't
be
know
hard.
how you could pull that off and pull it off as well as someone who actually is deaf.
yeah. Unless
you would have
you're
to
Leonardo DiCaprio.
I was saying that, and then I'm thinking of Gilbert Grape,
Me
and
too.
I'm like, Leo playing Arnie, man.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, which one do you like better? Quiet Place or Quiet Place 2? Gun to your head decision.
I think that this is a rare situation where I like the sequel more than I like the original.
Yeah.
It's been such a
Me
long time
too.
since I saw the first one. I don't know if I can make a decisive answer.
All right, you've seen them both really recently, Andrew.
I think I like the second one better. I think it was more. It did a lot more of what I wanted the first one to do, which was like kind of explore the world a little bit more, and it did that. So I think I enjoyed it better.
And it didn't have that old man going,
Yeah, that
At the
another thing. These movies just do stuff, and they're like, we're not going to talk about it. We're not even
Yeah.
going to like
Well,
acknowledge that
duh,
it
it's a
happened.
quiet place.
I know.
If you talk about it, then you're going. You got
die.
Lee going.
that is true. His fingers like,
Yeah, you could like sign language about like that's weird that our neighbor just decided to like scream and almost kill us.
Yeah, they explored the world and not at the expense of the story.
Yes.
The story was still really well told.
I'll,
It was
I'll
a
say,
really solid
yeah.
continuation.
I was about to say the exact same thing. I feel like it's about as good of a sequel as you could ask for.
yeah.
I think so too.
Plus all those effects, mostly practical.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
Well done. Yeah. So kudos to their whole team because they did awesome.
Yep, I agree.
I was just going to ask this opinion because I
Okay.
had it and I was curious if you felt the same. I feel like Emily Blunt's character, she doesn't do anything, it feels like.
I don't know.
And,
She
like,
had
either
one of
movie.
the coolest moments where she big brain played the alien
Yes,
by
but I
putting the
feel
little
like-
canister on the
But
ground
I feel like
shooting
in
it.
both movies, aside from one scene in like each movie, like the birth scene and then that scene in this one,
I'll say she gave birth
yeah, I
in
know,
the first
except
one.
for those two. But I feel like for the rest of the movies, she's sidelined. It feels like to me.
Well, the focus is on Millie as a character and
I
really
was-
the kids. So.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like I don't know.
I think it's the unfortunate thing of this one. It really is the children's story, and they're the one with the arcs. So I see where you're coming from.
I just felt
and
like it in the first one too, though.
There's a lot of characters to cycle through,
Yeah.
though. I can't remember the first one as well, but I mean, definitely John Krasinski is more of the protagonist for sure.
I just can't make an argument saying that someone doesn't do much when they literally give birth to
Yes, but
a
except for
child.
like one scene, it's just kind of like like this one. I noticed it more where it's just like I assumed she was gonna take that role where she was gonna be like the leader, and again she just gave birth, and but it just was like
I think it would have been like the same movie as the first one, though, and it
Yeah.
wouldn't have been
oh,
as
I'm not-
dynamic.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
weird.
I think too what they did well was the parallel action between her going to get the canisters of oxygen, between Cillian Murphy and Millie going to find the boat, and then also the son, which although it may be stupid, the reason he had to go explore was because they needed him to do something at that moment for that story, for
Yeah,
all those pieces.
exactly.
And they're put together so perfectly. Like literally, they light a fire in one scene, and then it spreads into the next scene or whatever. Or like they shine a flashlight at the camera, and that match cut happens on the person in the next scene. They're all like just these puzzle pieces that were so well planned.
Yeah, and the way they're edited together, they're planned.
You know
because
that.
stuff like that, you just can't. You
Right.
can get a couple of match cuts like that, with a good editor. They're like, oh, this could work, but something
yeah.
like this, you have to
Right,
plan
and
it out.
that's why I'm like, John Krasinski is freaking really good, and I can't
Are
wait
you
to see.
more impressed with him as a director after this one?
Yes, yes, I was impressed with the first one just because I was like, wow, but he someone had written a story, he took it and adapted it and everything. This one, I really do think he wrote this story. I think he was, helming all the like decisions for camera stuff, for cinematography, for whatever. So I really think I think he's a quality director.
Yeah, I can't wait to see
think,
what he does.
I think the second one, just watching them back to back, I think had stronger direction.
I could agree with that.
Yeah.
More high heels. That's the
Yeah.
difference.
Maybe in part
He's
maybe
the
in
new
part
feet
3.
guy in Hollywood.
Yeah.
I'd almost like to see more of the town and like people that have like gone crazy and stuff like that.
Yeah, and maybe
like
in part 3, that's what we'll see. Maybe we'll see those people
I don't
and
know.
learn why they're
Okay.
all burnt.
I like the aliens a lot.
Here's a question for you: would you rather see a continuation of this family, another like similar to what Fear the Walking Dead did with The Walking Dead, another group in this world, or like a prequel?
Well, I have to see them reunited first because they literally just like split the family up and it's like, okay, it's over. So I need something of
that
them
is
coming back
true.
together so I can have a conclusion to that story, and then
Yeah.
I would take like a prequel or
Yeah.
I guess the question is, this is a great segue to extend this episode. What would we do for part 3? Like, where do you go from there?
I would bring the families back together.
Yeah, but you
Yeah.
bring them back together. That's not a movie.
I do a Godfather Part 2 where it's the families coming back together, but it's intercut with other people, like at the beginning of like how they survived, and then it's probably the weird people. You pick a character in that group of the bad people, you understand how they got to that point, and then they're the antagonists.
That would be interesting because that would be such a departure from how they've made these, because they never show outside of these people's like what
Yeah.
they can see and perceive. We don't ever see like some government person like doing something like in
Yeah.
another movie. They
That
might
is
have
true.
like they might be like, oh, there's an asteroid coming for Earth, blah blah blah. They didn't set up anything like that. We're only with the people
Very
we know.
contained.
Yeah.
So it would be interesting if they changed that and we're actually focusing on people outside
This
of.
just reminded me of another thing that I don't know if it was like just set dressing that they didn't consider, but like in the first one, there's like he's got newspaper clippings about it, and it seems like in the flashback of this one, it all goes bad real quick, and it's just like, but they get like newspaper clippings in the government, like they have a notice from the government that's like you're on your own, you know.
Well, they
Yeah.
did set up with the TV though that there was stuff going
Singapore.
on in like
Yeah.
Singapore.
But still, you're right. Like that
It
day
just it
one,
all kicks off really quick. So I would like to go back, I think, and see like.
all hell
the
breaks
steps.
loose. They're not putting out newspapers.
Yeah, it's like, how did
You're
you
right.
get that newspaper?
You're
They
right.
like roll into town and they're like,
Yeah, how would you even get? Yeah,
Extra! Oh no, I'm dead.
it's like, yeah, if it goes south that fast, you can't even put out a newspaper. How are you gonna print it? It's like those machines, and then
they're
the
like
aliens.
underground in a bunker printing newspapers.
I have to get the word out.
The guy's like, the newspaper business must go on if it can survive the internet.
J. Jonah Jameson.
Dude, there's a guy in Fear the Walking Dead who's like that, but about beer. And he's
Really?
making beer in this post-apocalyptic world. And he has this great argument where he's like, societies are built on beer. He's like,
that's a good
Yeah,
argument.
because he's like, we need something. We're in a place now where we need something sterile and that has nutrients in it that you can drink. Because a lot of times water you can't drink
Yep.
if you don't know what's in it. And so he's like saying like,
That's a
the
life
Incans-
lesson to you.
Yeah, the Incans, the
Drink beer.
Mayans, Chinese, all these like societies were built on beer. He's like, that's why we became farmers. We settled, and so we could make beer. It's pretty interesting. And that's my last
That was
thought.
a beer advertisement.
And I don't even drink beer.
Beer is good. Well, that was a good episode.
It was. Hey, it was fun. The research for it was fun. We got to go to the movies.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So are big movies back?
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, I just watched The Conjuring, side tangent. I just watched The Conjuring 3 at home, and that's also in theaters. Very good movie.
Yeah.
It was pretty awesome. It's worth watching.
I wouldn't go see that in the theater anyways.
Yeah.
For me now, the theater is about things like A Quiet Place. You know what I mean? I want to see something
Big
like
movies.
I want to see the Jurassic Parks of the world in the something that's gonna be like explosions and like I need to see it in the theater to hear that
Yeah.
and experience that. Let's get out of here.
Okay.
You know,
Sure.
we're gonna get out of here. We're gonna go survive in a world where you can talk.
For now.
We'll see you guys next week, and it's a surprise what we're gonna talk about next time.
It is a surprise because I don't know what it is either.
See ya.
See you.